Hi there. In this video, we're going to see together how to generate images using artificial intelligence. I'm going to show you several tools, but don't forget, as I mentioned in my first video, AI tools are being released all the time. So these tools are currently available, they're free, and they're very effective. But it's also possible that new ones will be released in the coming days. So make sure to check in regularly because the tools are amazing and there are always new updates. All right, let's get started. So as you can see on my screen, I've opened a brand new session as if I had never logged into anything before. The first thing to do is to log into an AI tool. The first one we're going to try is Kriya AI. If you want, you can also click on the link that I'll put below the video. So you see here, I'm logging in and I arrive on a page. Now, if you're a bit curious, you can go check something out. First, there are different tools. And out of curiosity, if you want to take a look, you can see all the things you can do. But be careful, most of them are still paid. So keep in mind that with artificial intelligence in Gemini, there are always tons of new tools coming out all the time, and the best way to learn is to try them out. So I'll let you have fun exploring whatever you want to do, but we're going to focus on image creation. So here you see, this is my first time logging in, so I go to the top right, I click sign up here, and you'll log in with your email. Gmail is the easiest for all these tools. You're not required to, you can enter your email, but I strongly encourage you to have a Gmail address. Gmail, it saves you a ton of time. So here you see, I log in with the address I created. So I log in with my email address. Once I'm here, I can click either at the top. You see, I have images, videos, enhancer, real-time, edit, asset. These are options you can go and explore. And you also have everything available. You see the images, that's what we're going to do. Edit is when you want to change an existing image. And then you have lots of possibilities. I encourage you to explore everything. But be aware that some of them are quite expensive in quotation marks in terms of credits. Credits are what you see at the top right. Every day, your credits are renewed and made available to you. It's really in your best interest to log in a little every day to generate some images each day and or edit them. So you'll see with Red, you have access to a lot of images, but far fewer videos. And by the way, that's not even the main tool we're going to use. So I'm taking you to the images section, images. So you can access it either here or here or here. It's exactly the same thing. So we're going to click on it. Here, it's a pretty simple interface. Basically, what you need to say here is what you want to see in your image. You don't need to start with words like imagine a lemur walking through a forest. You don't need to imagine. They understand that directly. However, you do need to describe what you want to see. So if you don't know and you haven't made your storyboard or you haven't been given the outline that will help you with your prompt, well, let's just see what happens if I simply do it. And I'll also show you the difference between doing it in French and doing it in English. And you'll see that in English, the result is much better. So here, I'm going to start in French. And I'm going to say a lemur with an uncle. I always use a lemur because it's our mascot for the festival, a guy for good. A lemur with an uncle who is in a vast forest, and I'm going to describe it at sunset. Let's say he's holding a basket of bananas in his hand. In fact, the more you describe what you want to see, the more likely you are to get an interesting result. Here you see that I'm not specifying at all, whether it's a top-down view, a zoomed-in shot, a distant view, etc. But I want to dig deeper to see what happens. Well, I've already told you this in other videos. If you've watched the videos about the rules, in particular, it's super important. As I was saying last year, there were participants who were eliminated because they submitted videos in square format or in portrait format like Instagram or TikTok. It's a shame because really it's like going to the movies and ending up with half your screen black, at least on the sides, when what you want is to see the whole screen. Well, it's the same thing here. So you absolutely have to make sure that for each of your creations, you select 16:9 format and be very, very careful because actually many times when you use other tools or create something else, when you go back, it will reset this setting. Sometimes it will keep it, sometimes it will remove it. So you really have to be very vigilant. 16:9. And then if you want to practice even more, you can go and choose different styles. So here, these are styles you see that already exist, that are already pre-recorded, or you can explore. I tested them a few months ago. I'm not a huge fan because actually, sure, you might get a very distinctive style, but often when these models are trained, they're trained for very tight shots, that is portrait views, with a certain number of recurring elements. And you, as an artificial intelligence filmmaker, you need to work on your shots to energize your story, so you can still support it. But for now, I haven't been very convinced by those models. On top of that, regarding style, you could very well say here that you want an image that's going to inspire. That's not exactly what we're talking about here. Character consistency, meaning the consistency of the character that you find from one image to another. But it will inspire your image. So if you have a shot you really like, you can always try and tinker with it. All right, I'm going to get started. So we said a lemur with a long tail in a huge forest at sunset. He's holding a basket of bananas in his hand. There you go. That's how we're starting. Well, you see, actually, it really messed up, and that's what I tested earlier before showing you this tutorial. It doesn't understand what a lemur is in French, because it's a model that was trained mostly on a reference database. On top of that, I hadn't really specified a style like half photo, half digital, 3D. So what I'll need to do is add 3D animation. That's my style, and that's what I want. And on top of that, look, if I do this already, you can see it's going to change the style, but there's still something weird showing up. Now, you'll see what happens if we do it in English. So to do it in English, we're going to go to ChatGPT. So here, I'm opening a new tab. ChatGPT, you can do the translation however you want. I recommend using ChatGPT or Mistral or Gemini so you can see it faster. So you see, I'm typing ChatGPT, and now I'm going to log in and start typing. Hello, translate this prompt into English for an image generator. So I'm going to go to the state and take PISA. There we go. If you wanted, you could even say and improve it. I'm just going to do a straightforward translation. There you go. You see, it told me the English version. It asked me, would you like me to rework this prompt so it's even more optimized for an image generator? I'm going to say yes. And now you see it gave me a prompt that's a little bit longer. So I'm going to start with mine and then we'll compare what happens. So look, now that I've switched to English, watch what happens. Well, here I find exactly the lemur you see in all my videos. And yes, we have a lemur that's much more endearing and exactly matches what I asked for. Plus, it has that sunset lighting that I love. Now, look, if we test it with the improved version, it's very close. The sunset is a little more pink because it added the word vibrant, but you can see that it's very similar. So you see, I generated quite a few images, and what you see here is that it used 0% of my credits. What will cost credits is when you make edits, modifications, or when you create videos. And by the way, it's not necessarily the tool I recommend for video creation, but we'll try it out later just so you can get a taste of it. Regarding videos, by the way, I want to stress that you absolutely must have finished your storyboard before starting the creation process. Just to remind you, the storyboard is when you generate all your images. You put them one after another, and that gives you your overall view. Why? I'll repeat it to you. It's because in terms of credits, in other words, cost, it ends up being much cheaper. Creating images is much cheaper than making videos. And the tools we're going to show you for video generation, when you log in for the first time, you get a lot of credits, but they only last for 3 days. So that's exactly why you should have already prepared all your images because you'll use these images in the video generator and then you'll be able to move very quickly. However, if you continue now with just a few images you have and you already start generating your videos, well, in 4 days when your credits run out, you'll be out of video credits and you'll be quite disappointed. So really focus on working on these images first. This is where you'll tell your whole story, your entire narrative, so it's important that you dig deep. Now, I really like this lemur, but what I want to show you is that when I zoom in on it, underneath, I have several options. I can add it to my favorites, which is always handy if you want to find it again, because you'll see that if you generate a lot of images, you'll end up with a huge number of them. And you can make variations. You can turn it into a video, you can enhance it, or you can download it. So look, what I'm going to do is download it, and it's downloading in the background. Ah, there you go. You see, it's starting to appear. And then I'm going to try and see what happens. Variation. So variation is a bit like the game of spot the difference. You see that we almost have, look, I'll zoom in, almost the same numbers, but a little different each time. It has a slightly different look. The ears are a bit different and so on. With this option, you really have the ability to create a lot of images that will serve as your base. And especially for the whole environment as well, because don't forget, in a video, it's not just your character, it's also the views of other characters they meet who might be seen from behind. It could be a landscape, etc. It could be a lot of different things. It could be zoom-ins and close-ups on certain elements that appear in your story. You see, for example, it could be a zoom in on a banana, or since he's a bit amazed by the sunset, it could then be a point of view shot. He's looking at the sky, so a view from behind, or a close-up on his eyes reflecting the sunlight. You could tell all sorts of things. So I'm going to click on video. I'm doing it because I know you're dying to try out the video feature. And I'm going to show you what happens. You see here, I'm at 0% of daily credit. It's created, but this isn't the tool we're going to use to make our videos. So you can have fun with it from time to time if you want. But with the tool I'll show you afterwards, you'll really have to wait until your images are created. So here I click on video. And so it brings up exactly the same prompt I entered earlier. And I'm going to say, the small ring-tailed lemur slowly rotates its head toward the vibrant golden sunset. and I'm going to say the camera. I'm going to slowly zoom in on the beautiful glowing golden sunset right now and capture the view. Here I could still choose the style, and here I could decide to set a starting image. So as you can see, it used up some of my credits. So now we're going to wait for it to load. What's pretty fun is that you can watch the generation happening in real time. Well, I'm showing you this because you're curious. I know you're really eager to make the video, but I really want to stress that I recommend you wait until the very last moment, except create one if you want to have fun, because I think your credits renew every day, a little bit each day, but with the tools, you'll see there's something special for video. Just wait a bit, there you go. And look, see, we got 5 seconds, but we'll talk more about that a bit later. So you see, it really wasn't very complicated to do that. The real challenge for you isn't generating nice videos. And since I know you're very, very curious and really eager to try out videos, I'm telling you actually it's not going to be hard to generate videos. And compared to 6 months ago when we did the first edition, the tools have evolved a lot. The real challenge for you will be to tell a story. You can have stunning images, but if your story is hollow, nothing will happen. And it's the same thing. If you show this character who's always shown full body from the same kind of angle, your story will be hollow. So really, this step of planning ahead is super important. Here, you see on the side, you have the panel where I created my lemma on the video section. Now let's go back to the images. You see, I've used 100% of my limit credit. If I take this again, you see, if I click on it, I copy and paste. Already here, you can see that it put me in 2/3, meaning in portrait format. So I'm going to go right away. Check 16:9 again. It's a good habit to get into. There. So now I'm going to say, I'll remove a bit of text. And I'll say that I want to zoom on the basket of bananas. A view. In animation, 3D, so I specify my style, and I'm going to do a zoom by saying it's a zoom, zoom. So zoom in on the basket that's full of bananas, and let's see what happens. Well, you see what happens. Since I used my video, I used up all the credit I had on Craya. So I'll have to wait until tomorrow to be able to try again. So since I'm out of credit and it'll be renewed tomorrow, what I'm going to do is copy my prompt, the text, and go try out another tool. So that's done. Now let's go test Leonardo AI. Leonardo AI, you see, there are a lot of them. You just have to look for them. The one with a kind of little blonde head, a bit too old, a bit weird. In any case, I'll put the link in the video for you. When you get here, you need to click on Get Started. Of course, you can bookmark all these links, right? All right? That way, you can easily find them later in your toolbar. So when I get here, what I need to do is log in. Again, you can either use your Gmail address or another email address. So here, I'm logging in. And I continue, I accept. You won't need to do this anymore after the first time. You just have to do it once, and then you'll be set. There you go. Now I'm on the interface. You need to accept the terms and conditions. If you're a minor, you can ask your parents to help you accept them. And here, if you want, you can take a tour that will show you the different options and explain again what it is. Well, it's in English and so on, but you can still go check it out. So once we're here, what we can do is type the prompt I had earlier. So we want a 3D view with a zoom on a basket full of bananas, with orange lighting, and so on. Now, you have new options. With video, flow, state, there are lots of things, etc. But for us, we're going to do images. Here, it's the same as with the other one. You have your credits, and you'll quickly see how much it uses. And every day it's renewed. So you need to do a little bit each day. A little tip, if you have parents around or a brother or sister who's willing to help, you can borrow their email address. That way, you can use several family email addresses to take advantage of the generations. So remember, the first thing you should do is set it to 16:9. You see here, that's important because otherwise, in that case, it's going to make it in a square format. Next, you can choose the number of images you want. So you see, if you select one, it's not possible, so you have to leave it at 4. And then you can also decide whether you want your prompt to be improved or not. So here, it's going to rephrase it for you, your prompt automatically. And then you can explore a whole world of styles. Acrylic, well, that's painting. Acrylic, there's animated, manga style, creative, dynamic, fashion, graphic design. You have tons and tons of styles. In general, Leonardo's styles are much better than those from Craya. So I'm going to choose 3D render because that's what interests me. You also have the option to look at the existing models. So it's kind of the same thing. That is, you have the main model and then you have the substyles. So we saw the model that was more dev-oriented, and here I chose a style. But you can also look for, anime as well, or the manga. You'll get that kind of style. The flat vegan, that's more like photos. You see, it's not photography, it's what we saw. So you can have fun with it. Just know that depending on the model you use, it will consume more or less credit. So I did put 16:9:10:4. There you go. You can then see if you want to add it to your collection. You can also set advanced parameters. That's still pretty handy. Because with this model, you can't do that. But look, I think if I took, for example, a Phoenix model, I should have it. Actually, the negative prompt is when you specify what you don't want to appear. For example, you say you want a huge tree, but you don't want a fir tree. You can put it here, I don't want any fir trees. You have lots of other options that are a bit technical. I told you I was going to try the Flux model, and it works well in dynamic style. I'll give it a try. This one, I'll close it, and then we'll see what it looks like. So you see, this model cost me 39 credits. It cost me a lot. If I go, for example, with Cinematic Keynote, it cost me 14. I can make a lot more images, twice as many images. So here, look. But you see, I'm still not at the style I want. First of all, I didn't specify that I wanted it to be in the forest. So what this teaches me is that I'm going to add in the forest. And then I see that my style still isn't quite what I want. So I'm going to emphasize again by saying 3D animation. 3D animation, I repeat it because sometimes insisting helps. And I'm going to start over. Let's try a Phoenix model. There you go. And you see, now it's generating. So 24 is a bit more than the other one. I think what you'll quickly realize is that it's more pleasant to work with just one tool. Why? Because when you work in a certain way with Crea or with Leonardo, you'll always find yourself with the same style of image, which will have a bit of their signature, their touch from one model to another. So my advice is look for the style or universe that you like. It could be watercolor, it could be pastel, modeling, it could be English sculpture, it could be lots of things. But keep in mind that it's still simpler to stick with the same model. Personally, I work a lot with Crea and Midjourney, which is a paid tool. And here, precisely, you're using a free one because I really like how similar the images are and it matches what I want to do. So it happens that this kind of image appears. Since we have minors with us who are under 18, I don't recommend that you click. The reality is that it's almost certainly a picture of a banana hidden behind there. And sometimes, for unknown reasons, they decide it's not an interesting model. And I'm going to take this prompt that I copied to see what it gives. And you see here, I'm going to take, for example, Phoenix 1. I'll take that one, 24. And I'll put 3D animation back in. There you go. Well, you can see that we're looking at a lemur that doesn't have the style at all of the cute little lemur I had before. So you see, if I look, sometimes it just does anything, like with a tail that's not even connected to the rest of the body. That's the problem with the Modados anyway. The difference compared to Crea is that you can't make variations. And once you're here, if, for example, I liked, let's say, these bananas, even if I'm not totally convinced, I'll save them. And well, you see, you have the option to select them. And here what it says, to generate the video, well, to be able to make the video, you see that you're blocked because it's a paid feature. And anyway, this isn't the tool we're going to prefer for video. Now we're going to go test it out. Another tool is ChatGPT. We're going to log back in and see what it can do in terms of image creation. So I'm going to say hello to it, ask it to draw for me, and I'll give it the account again, knowing that I've added everything properly, 16:9 format. And you can see that it's going to take some time because there are a lot of requests. It's not necessarily the tool I recommend as a priority. And you see, CGPT has created an image. It's not exactly the format I asked for, but it's close. It's not too bad. And I could tell it I want to change some things. For example, I'll tell it change the eye color to white. We created this, and when we went from one image, almost the same ones. So look, if I download them, this was the original image and this is the modified image. So indeed, the eyes have turned white, but it doesn't just modify that part, it recreates the whole image. And that's why if you ask it to make changes, you'll never get exactly the same thing. Afterwards, you can tinker with it, but it will take a bit more time. I'm going to show you a new tool, Seedream AI. And we're going to click on the link seedream.pro. So what do I type? Well, I'm going to type my prompt. And I'm going to set the format. I'm going to click to confirm that I'm human. There you go. And what you see is that it creates an image, which I will download to show you. There you go. So as you can see, this image isn't perfect, but it's a generator that also offers some options, which are sometimes nice. You see, we won't get the same result. Here, we'll have more of a 3D effect that's different, which can bring out small details, whereas there, we'll have a slightly different model. So really, each model has its own style. And I'll show you another example. I'm going to say, this is a high-quality three-dimensional digital animation featuring a vibrant and friendly-looking cute moray eel situated in a modern kitchen while carefully holding a large wicker basket overflowing with ripe yellow bananas. I am currently initiating the rendering process once again to show you the results. And there you go. The sequence is now playing perfectly for us to see. And so here you see, by simplifying the prompt and saying it was a cute moray eel, I got a result that interests me more than the image I had just before. So the words you use really have an impact. You see, I have a lemur that's pretty cute. So you see, we've created a whole series of little lemurs that are very cute and very fitting. You see, we've created a whole series of little lemurs. In fact, what will really help in terms of image consistency and tracking is first to try, as much as possible, to use the same tool, or at least to make enough adjustments in the way you prompt, meaning how you write the text to achieve a result you like, so that there is consistency. And then on top of that, it's trying in the way you prompt is really about thinking through your storyboard. What time of day is it? What angle are you using? Do you want to convey a particular message? What is the emotion? You see all the characters in the museum you prompt, they're all happy, all smiling, and so on. A story like that is a bit shallow. Now that we've seen all that, you know how to use AI image generators. But the question is, how do you use the storyboard you've built with us? In the 2 videos we've watched together, either with John or with me, about the steps of making a film, well, let's go over it together again. How, starting from your storyboard, are you going to use everything you filled in the different boxes to generate a background that will quickly give you exactly all the images you were hoping for? As a reminder, you created between 12 and 24 images on your storyboard. And under each image, you wrote a certain number of elements, such as the shot size, the location, the character's colors, the emotions, etc. If you did that properly, you'll see that it's really going to help you. Now imagine that I take the example I gave you in the video about the steps, and I want to turn my video of the sea with the lemur into an image that I will generate using artificial intelligence. So what I do is go back to what I already wrote in my storyboard. So for example, shot size, wide shot, location, jungle, character or object. Here I show a mother, the lemur. They are small and she has yellow eyes, and no, she looks anxious, worried, because remember that in the storyboard, she is going to discover who is in my case. I decide that the time of day is early morning and the colors are mostly green and pink. My style is 3D animation, and in terms of bold movements, we don't need them right away, but they'll be useful to us later. On the cameras that will zoom in on the mother's worried look before heading into the jungle afterwards. So what I'm going to do is go to Chazipt, like we saw earlier when we did the English translation. I'm simply going to write to it, "Hello, write an account in English to generate an image with these elements." And I'm going to copy and paste what I put in my storyboard. From there, it will give me a text and account, which I will copy and paste and simply put directly into the image generation title I've chosen. And now, as you can see, it generated images that are quite close to what I asked for, and that suit me. And if I see, for example, that the perspective isn't fully respected and I want to change the image, I just need to make adjustments directly to the prompt I wrote. So here, for example, I emphasize that it was an over-the-shoulder view. There you go. I think we've covered everything together. Good luck, and don't hesitate to contact us if you need any help. See you soon.